And tonight you'll see the result.
It's okay. I guess that was an
Incredible experiment. And tonight you'll see the results.
This is the story of a flight unlike any that has ever been attempted before, of a strange kinship between a young squadron of geese and a contraption that looks as if you dreamed it into the sky, and a man known as Father Goose.
In truth, I'm like a lot of kids that, want to fly like a bird. There's a timelessness to it.
Father Goose is a 54-year-old Canadian sculptor named Bill Lishman, a man who believed that using an ultralight aircraft, he could somehow lead in flight an actual migration of geese south out of Canada. There is a point to his flight of fancy, because the techniques he dreamed up could be used to help restore some endangered birds to migration patterns they have long since forgotten. Many birds simply don't fly their traditional migratory routes because at some point a generation or more ago, the adult population was injured or exterminated and that long chain of knowledge was broken. But if birds can learn to fly behind a human leader who will show them a safe migratory route, the hope is they will remember the way on their own, and they in turn will show new generations.
It's amazing. They've got some method of learning the ground as they go over it. I thought, boy, we could carry that into another realm, and that's where we're at now.
He's persistent, and it really is, he can see an end in sight.
Lishman's wife, Paula, knew that once he was hooked on the romance of the idea, he wouldn't give it up.
It's going back to the real primal drive of looking at a bird in flight and, being able to experience that firsthand.
You're high, go around.
But what audacity to think you could join a masterpiece of nature and share even a wing stroke of its world.
They always go long.
Who is this man? Well, he lives on Purple Hill in the Canadian countryside north of Lake Ontario. His house, which he designed himself, is built into the hillside and filled with his ideas and inventions, including this pop-up refrigerator. Around the outskirts of his property, you find evidence of how Bill Lishman earns his living as a sculptor of metals in particular, whose work has been displayed and sold worldwide.
You go through the whole list of his accomplishments, things he's done, the underground house, the sculpture. You go through the whole list and people start to go, well, this is an unusual guy,
Joe Duff is a photographer and ultralight pilot who joined up with Lishman's migration project to fly the second aircraft that's necessary to keep the geese herded together.
He needed the help, and I wanted to help, so I put everything on the back burner and do this full time.
Recruiting a free spirit like Joe Duff is one thing, but what made his geese so attached to Bill Lishman? It began the moment these young goslings hatched from eggs collected under Canadian wildlife permits and placed in an incubator. Because of a natural phenomenon called imprinting, birds believe the first moving object they see is their parent. So as they peck their way out of the egg and open their eyes in the nursery, there's Bill Lishman. To them, he's Father Goose. Like any proud parent, he's taken hours of home video.
What's amazing to me is how much they are born with. They have the instinct to fly. They know how to fly. So it's obviously, millions and millions of years of evolution in there that comes through in the egg.
From his first group of goslings in 1986, Lishman, often with his daughter Carmen by his side, has raised 3 generations like a father, running down Purple Hill, carrying a tape recorder that accustoms the geese very early in life to the sound of an ultralight engine.
A lot of the family got involved. Carmen had 5 geese that she'd run around with these little goslings following after her. And the amount of dedication is quite amazing. Just the hours and hours that are spent every day.
No one had ever prepared geese to migrate behind a man-made flying machine before, and so Lishman was on his own as an experimenter. But that was nothing new. Lishman didn't know how to fly when he started out either. not even a hang glider, much less something with an engine. Bill Lishman is not a conventional man, but he is a stubborn one. As he continued to instruct his geese, Lishman put his skill as a metal sculptor to work in building frames behind which the young birds could scamper on the ground, now learning to regard something like an ultralight as their group leader. And finally, everything falls into place. At around 10 weeks of age, the geese are ready to use their wings. They pursue the ultralight as it takes to the air, and in a matter of seconds, they have soared into formation behind it. It is a heart-stopping sight. Lishman flying steadily in the lead, Joe Duff in a chase aircraft fast enough to bring the birds back into formation if they put on a burst of speed. But even as these unlikely companions became accustomed to each other, their flights always started and ended here at Lishman's Purple Hill Aerodrome. And when the first 2 generations of geese that Lishman had raised reached adulthood, they left Purple Hill for good.
You know, at that point, they're equivalent to teenagers, and Dad, we're leaving home. You know, and they, you know, they've got the mating instinct at that point, and they're more interested in other geese, and you've played your role.
So it was this generation of geese, his third, that Bill Lishman hoped to lead on a migration. His dream had been deferred until this year because it had required such complex permissions from both the Canadian and U.S. governments, as well as a place to go. The most important solution was here, 400 miles to the south at Airlie Center, Virginia. Here, a scientist named William Sladen, who keeps a sanctuary for trumpeter swans, issued an invitation to Lishman and his geese. There's plenty of room and good care if you can really make it.
If this works, then we can use it on rare birds like the trumpeter swan, and particularly the whooping crane, which is very endangered, and show them a safe migration route that they don't have to do by chance.
Are you worried about hunters on this trip?
And the only thing I worry about is it's goose hunting season right now. There's a little worry that way. But we're leaving home.
A month into autumn, on a 39-degree morning at 6 a.m. It is Wednesday, October 19th, 1993. With a light wind stirring from the north-northeast and the sound of the ultralights drifting across the fields, the weather was right and the young Canada geese were ready. And finally, this strange collaboration of instinct and engine answered the ancient call to go south. The first day was the one that Lishman worried about most, the day they would encounter 36 miles of open water over Lake Ontario.
The most difficult part in my head right now is getting across Lake Ontario, because we have to fly about 3 hours, and we were concerned that the geese wouldn't last that long to start with, and there's always that nagging doubt that the engine might quit on you.
From above, they could see the chase boat for which Lishman had arranged if that worst-case scenario came true. On the other side of the lake, in a field near Gaines, New York, was a gathering of local spectators, some of whom weren't sure exactly what was going to happen. There's a man in the air leading some birds across the lake.
Downey, this is Papa, still in November. We're 2 minutes out, and the geese are approximately 10 minutes behind us.
By 10 a.m., advance spotters reported they had seen the geese near American shores. And shortly afterward, they appeared in the sky, having crossed the Great Lake. It seemed almost too good to be true. Down came Bill Lishman, who always lands first, so the geese will come in after him. But geese are wary of new locations and didn't feel like kissing American soil just yet.
Keep everybody back, eh?
They're headed north again. Maybe you better go round them up.
Joe Duff went back up to lead them around again, and it was starting to look very dicey. Listen to what was happening within shouting distance of the field, the gunshots of hunters.
Now I'm starting to worry.
The hunters were shooting at other game, but geese aren't deaf, and they were being very conservative. Finally, they heeded the calls of Father Goose from the clearing below and descended. Each goose, around a dozen pounds beneath 5 feet of wing spread, dropping into a trademark touchdown. Leg one was done, but there was one other detail that migrating geese have never had to face before.
Okay, that's an entry document. It shows that you're admitted to the United States as a B1 visitor for business purposes.
Meet Carla Hengerer, senior examiner for the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service in Buffalo, New York.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the United States.
Thank you. Thank you.
Into the pens that had been trucked across the border for them went the geese. Weather would keep them grounded for another 3 days. And then they began a series of hops that took them through New York to near Williamsport and Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where they rested on Monday, October 25th. By that day, at the bird sanctuary where Dr. Sladen waited at Airlie Center, Virginia, there was clearly the probability that the crazy scheme of Father Goose was going to work.
He's up in the air. It's just a perfect day for migration. He was flying right over Pennsylvania this morning. It's wonderful.
Is it interfering with a natural process to lead this migration?
No, I don't think so. These birds not only imprinted on Bill Lishman, but they're imprinted on each other. They're all pals. It's a little family group.
You're flying over the planet with these creatures, and it sort of paints the Earth over, cruising along with these beings that have been flying across this planet for millions of years. It's just an absolute phenomenal feeling.
More than 400 miles they had flown at average speeds of 30 to 32 miles an hour and altitudes as high as 3,700 feet above sea level. 18 geese, magnificent to watch. As Lishman flew beside them, wingtip to fingertip, he could even watch them breathe. But the great secret that Bill Lishman could not share, the secret that they and all birds keep, is how they remember the way.
When you land in Virginia, is it going to be like Lindbergh making it to
To me, it will be. To me, it will be. I don't think we'll have the crowds and everything else, but it'll be my personal Lindbergh flight for sure.
At sunset on October 25th, 1993, that long journey ended. From the ground, we could count as they approached and circled, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 18. They were all coming in.
What a day today was.
As soon as they landed, tired from the day's flight, they were taken to the pen that had been prepared for them. Everyone there that evening followed Bill Lishman. The geese will winter here, and then the test will come. Will they return to Purple Hill without Father Goose? Will they remember this flight? As for Bill Lishman and Joe Duff, when it was all done and everyone was gone, we saw them flying alone in the darkening sky, climbing and circling and climbing again as if they couldn't quite let it all go. They will remember.
Beautiful, beautiful sight. Bob, he got them there. Now, how are they going to get back?
He's going to go back there in the spring and give them their exercise and fly them around again, and then lead them back to Purple Hill, to his home in Canada. And the real test comes next fall to see whether they migrate on their own, and if and when they do, whether they go back to Airlie Center, at least some of them.
How's he going to know when he gets down there that these are the same geese?
Well, the geese were banded. They had Wildlife Service bands around their legs, and since they've gotten there, they've also put neck bands on some of them so they can spot them
from the air. Yeah. Great, great, Bob. Thank you very much.
What a joy.
Oh,
Fly. Think we could all fly? Well, next, you've seen